Hello, I'm BMillzebub, and welcome to a new sex ed video. I know you've been waiting a while for this, and I'm sorry it's been so long. The medical side of sex education is more nuanced than I really feel confident enough to attempt to go into. But I think consent ought to be a topic I can handle pretty well with only a little bit of help. So let's talk about it. This should actually be a pretty straightforward topic. No means no. And to quote the cop who led a class on this in my orientation to Ramstein Air Base, no does not mean more shots, which obviously refers to feeding someone alcohol or some other kind of intoxicant to get their consent, or in a more rapey kind of way, knock them out so you can have your way with them. Nor does it mean to continually pressure someone into having sex until they finally do. You should prefer enthusiastic and informed consent. You know, someone who really wants to mash fun bits with you and how you each plan to do it. I find the experience much more enjoyable if whoever I'm hooking up with is interested and taking an active role while rolling in the hay, so to speak. But consent doesn't just happen before the fun begins, because consent can be taken away at any point, and everyone else involved has to stop once consent is rescinded. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, you might have blue balls, but for whatever reason, consent isn't there anymore, and you have to stop. But it's okay. Just because whoever you're with is done having sex with you before you finished doesn't mean that you don't have one of these. Sure, a hand or a toy might not feel as good as another person, but the answer has gone from a yes to a no, and that wish has to be respected. But this has just been the more vanilla portion of the video. Picking up where I'm leaving off is Silver Layna to talk about kinky consent.
Bub, what were you thinking letting me on your channel like this? No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it. So, what separates kinky consent from vanilla consent? Eh? Well, the two things that pop in my head at first are assumptions and expectations. So, in BDSM and kink in general, at least within the community, expectations and assumptions are not something that are as prevalent as your everyday vanilla society when you walk outside your house, or just the regular people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis. In BDSM, people are not only very forthcoming, but we encourage them all the time to constantly be negotiating and talking, and you don't really go into anything with assuming anything. That's kind of a cardinal sin. Like, don't do it. Don't do it. If you want something to happen, then you need to be discussing it. And through that negotiation, which is the discussion, hopefully, maybe, you get their consent and they get your consent to do whatever it is that you're looking to do. But the other thing with assumption and expectation, when you go into something saying that you want one thing, but expecting it to be completely different because you haven't actually verbalized what you're expecting, that's a whole nother problem in and of itself. We actually see this problem every single day in a lot of relationships, actually. And not even relationships, but just friendships, parent-child relationships, sibling relationships. I could go on and on forever, for all of time. But no, we actually do see a lot of this. If you're having a hard time thinking of what the hell I'm talking about right now, just kind of consider the way that we deal with, well, the way that the average person is taught from birth to deal with conflict. Whether it's conflict with your husband, conflict with a spouse, conflict with the neighbor, conflict with your brother, we're taught that you should confront them and you should have a conversation right then, right there, about whatever is going on. Now, on the surface, this may not seem very harmful, but I would argue it is. If someone is not ready to have that conversation, and here's why. If someone's not ready to have a conversation with you about whatever the topic is about, I don't care. It could be sex related, it could be non-sex related, it could be about your damn mail. I don't care. If someone isn't ready to discuss something, the odds of you getting the truth out of them are very little. They're more likely going to be on the offense or the defense. They're more likely going to be feeding you lines that they know you want to hear just to get you to go away and get away from them and respect their boundaries since they've already asked you to stop and leave them alone. So you're more than likely going to kind of get a lie and not so much the actual truth of what's wrong or what's actually bothering them, if it's anything for that matter, because maybe what's bothering them has zero to do with you and everything to do with them. Maybe they got triggered. Maybe they had a flashback. There's a million and one different reasons why someone might have an issue that has nothing to do with you personally and has everything to do with them. And it's kind of awkward and uncomfortable to discuss the problems that are just our problems. Add to that, when you're being pressured into talking about it, it makes it really difficult to be honest and upfront. But here again is where I think kink and vanilla culture kind of veer off from one another. In kink, we are definitely encouraged to be honest, to be upfront, to be truthful. In vanilla society, that is not the case. We are not raised this way. You know, like, this is something that I am still learning. I wasn't raised like this, obviously, but and some people in my generation do actually raise their children already with this in their head, and I think that's awesome. You keep doing that. But in the meantime, the rest of us, we weren't socialized that way. The majority of us in this country and around the world, for that matter, we were not socialized that way. We were socialized in a completely different way. The way we were socialized was that the man chases the woman, and the woman is supposed to love the chase. And this is a problem for a lot of reasons. Not to mention all the reasons I could point out that, like heteronormativity. But whatever. People are behind, it's a thing. So, no, not all women love to be chased, I'm sorry to say. And definitely not all men love to chase. I know a lot of men that love the complete opposite of that. They don't want to be chased at all. Or they don't want to chase at all. Quite the opposite. So, and I know a lot of women also quite the opposite. But this is the way that we are conditioned. This is the way that we are socialized to interact with one another. We are we are taught from birth to literally act on assumption and expectation. What is it we expect? Have it in your mind and assume that it's going to happen. It's very odd to me. Like, I don't quite understand why this is a thing. I have a really hard time understanding people that operate in this way and enjoy it. Cause I don't know. To me, informed consent is everything under the sun. Informed consent is what separates BDSM from abuse. Informed consent is the only consent that matters. You can't properly consent to anything. It doesn't matter if it's sexual or non-sexual. You can't properly consent if you don't know what exactly you are consenting to. If I tell you, hey, I want to do a scene with you where I hit you, and you say, yeah, that sounds nice, technically I have your consent, but there's been zero discussion about where I'm allowed to hit you, and if there's any place that I'm not allowed to hit you. That's really important. Extremely so. These are the details vanilla culture is always leaving out. BDSM is constantly honing and focusing in on these details. The what, when, why, where, etc. of it, if you will. And some people argue that this takes the sexiness out of sex, to which I have to say, I'm sorry, but if you think that sex is only sexy when it's ambiguous, I find you a scary human being. I just do. You, to me, are not safe. So, again, informed consent. And what else goes along with that? So, we've discussed sort of, at least just on the surface, we've discussed negotiation and communication. This is vital to consent, to informed consent. What else is vital? Safe words. You've probably heard that term before. A lot of people like to use, including myself, the traffic light system, as it's called. Red, yellow, green. Green meaning we're good, keep going. Yellow meaning, slow down or change something. Like, for example, yellow, go harder. Yellow, go softer. Yellow, change something, And then red being stop, everything ends, everybody's done. Nothing happens from this moment forward. And then later, if you have to red, you can talk about that later. But you're not under any obligation, you're not under any pressure to have a conversation right then and there the moment you read of why you said red. That's not a thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are bad apples everywhere, right? In every community. So, for sure, there are people that pressure people who read out of a scene, why did you read, But generally speaking, that's not a thing. Like, most kinky spaces are pretty respectful of someone's right to use their safe word. We are constantly and always encouraging people to use their safe word, to the degree that we encourage you practice your safe word even when you don't need it. Practice your safe word in the shower. Practice your safe word while you're brushing your teeth. Practice your safe word while you're getting ready. Practice your safe word while you're getting dressed. Practice your safe words. Like, even when everything is awesome and it's going well, talk to your partner or partners or whoever you're playing with and just say, hey, I'd like to do a scene where I practice my safe words with you. And you respect them. That way you know that you have the power. Because in BDSM, the submissive does have all of the power. We do. I have the power. Because it is literally my consent that dictates whether or not something is going to occur. Period. If I say no, it's not happening. And if it happens anyway, it's assault. If I say yes, I've consented to this. This is a power exchange that I am consenting to. It's a power exchange a lot of people agree to consent to. So, informed consent is important. And again, the biggest difference to me, just like, I don't know why it keeps popping up in my head in this manner. Some people may a lot of people might disagree with me. But just off the tip of my brain anyway, it always comes to me in the verbiage of assumption and expectation. Assumption and expectation. We don't go into things assuming people want to do things with us. I don't go into a situation assuming that someone is going to want to play with me. I don't go into a situation assuming that someone is going to be down for what I'm down for. I don't go into a situation once I, let's say, get confirmation that maybe we are into the same things. I don't go into that situation expecting it to be perfect and expecting it to go to like some fantasy novel type of situation, because that's just not realistic. That's not real life. What I do is I negotiate and I have a proper conversation with my partners about my expectations, my wants, my needs, and what I'm expecting to get out of the scene. And from there, they can tell me, yes, that is something I can do for you. Or no, that is not something I can do for you. I'm sorry. And from there, I can go somewhere else. And I, as someone who sometimes tops other people, do the same thing. Yes, that is something I can do for you. Or, sorry, no, you're going to have to find someone else because I'm not your person. This is how it's handled. It's not that hard to do. It's far more respectful. And I would argue that in BDSM, again, we're always encouraging people to respect their own and others' bodily autonomy. This is important. If you can't own your own agency, how could you possibly give it away? And what I mean by that, if you can't own your own agency, how can you properly consent? Can I trust you to safe word? How do I know? If you can't own your own agency, I can't trust you. If you can't own your own agency, I don't trust you. And no one else should either. In my opinion, if you're this type of person, and there's a million and one reasons why someone might have this problem, past trauma is one of the reasons that comes to mind. I know that I myself, many years ago, actually did have this issue. It was something I went to therapy for. But if this is something that's affecting you, I strongly recommend just watch. You don't have to get involved. Just watch. And if you're gonna get involved anyway, let people know that you can't give consent. Let them know, hey, I have some past issues that I'm still working through. Something could go wrong and I might not use my safe words. I don't know. It's a risk. Are you willing to take that risk? And let them decide. Thank you. This is Silver Layna, and I will see you guys soon.
Awesome. Thanks for helping me out, Silver. I'm sure all of you watching heard a lot from Silver that could, and I really think should, be a part of vanilla relationships as well. Things like negotiation, communication of desires and expectations, even breaking out of discussing consent and sex and moving into everyday life and communication with others. If someone doesn't want to talk to you, you really don't have the right to force them to have a conversation with you. If someone doesn't want to associate with you, you really don't have a right to force them to associate with you. So let's try to do this a little better in our daily lives. Express yourself, your desires and expectations with everyone you come into contact with. Do the same thing when things start to get romantic as well, especially then, actually, and you and your partner or partners should have informed knowledge of everything everyone involved wants to happen, and the ability to say no to something you or they don't want to happen and be respected for not giving that consent. And for anyone who's interested, Silver Layna did a live stream on her channel talking about consent a little while ago. You'll find a link to it in the description. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video and learned something. If you did, please leave the video a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and click the notification bell to get notified every time I upload a new video. And definitely take a trip to the description box below where you'll find a link to Silver Layna's channel. Click her sub button and ring her bell.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't help it. Also, if you feel so inclined to help me out, consider supporting me on Patreon, where I have monthly patron-only live streams, or consider getting me something from my Amazon wishlist. Every little bit helps, and every little bit is greatly appreciated. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, linked below, to keep up with all my comings and goings, and join my Discord for a chance to talk to yours truly. Take it easy, everyone, and I'll see you all in the next one.